Following this particular story and other stories like it. Good morning to you, Julia. According to reports, the captain says President Putin is not the owner of this $700 million super yacht. How do they find out who owns it?
Well, that's a good question, Adrienne, and I think that's what the Justice Department and other foreign governments that are really looking into these Russian assets that could be owned by President Putin or other Russian oligarchs are really running into. Look, when a lot of these Russian figures hide their wealth, and we understand that about 60% of Russia's GDP alone is stored off its shores, we know that they typically hide it behind shell companies, for example, and that we know that a lot of these private jets, yachts, mansions aren't exactly owned by the individuals that, may officially own them, but also they're owned by shell companies. So essentially, these oligarchs, or maybe President Putin in this case, is hiding behind these shell companies or these, mysterious funds or organizations that supposedly own these pieces of property.
Well, between the DOJ announcing this task force to crack down on Russian elites and the sanctions, is this actually even working?
We are seeing that the DOJ is definitely finding a lot of these Russian assets that are located, outside of Russia. And we know that other Western countries are trying to do the same thing. If you look in cities like Miami or London, we understand that a lot of Russian oligarchs own property in that area. And I think there are questions as to which oligarchs or which shell companies is President Putin hiding his wealth behind. So, the tricky part of this is, figuring out, like I said, where he's hiding his wealth. And I think that's what makes this more difficult. So I think you're seeing Western countries, the Justice Department, really just going after all of these Russian assets. The part that also makes it difficult is that a lot of these Russian oligarchs have taken their yachts or taken their private jets, their companies, to countries like, to areas like Dubai, for example, or the Maldives. These are areas that do not have extradition treaties with the United States. So it definitely puts a bit of a wrench in the U.S.'s plan to seize these assets.
But if they do seize them, what ultimately happens? Are they going to auction off a $700 million super yacht?
Well, I think that's a good question. But essentially, if they do seize them, that oligarch or, shell corporation or whoever owns it loses that wealth. And then that could mean that high profile or high power figures in Russia, like Vladimir Putin, are losing their wealth as well. Vladimir Putin's wealth is a big topic of conversation when it comes to these sanctions. Putin's official government salary is probably in the low six figures, but we understand that he earlier in his career amassed a huge fortune that he has, hid behind these oligarchs, and he owns these various luxury properties. If you even look at his wrist, he's often wearing designer watches, designer suits, designer clothing. So he clearly has this wealth. It's just not associated with Russia. So it's the job of the U.S. really to find where he could potentially be hiding this wealth, so he will start to hurt financially from all of these sanctions.
Well, he might be hurting, but he's certainly well dressed, as you were talking about. Even in this recent rally that was held in Moscow on the weekend, Friday, he was wearing a $4,000 sweater, a $13,000 coat. Do you think that sends a message to the West that these sanctions just do not bother him?
It could be sending a bit of a message, but I think the West and a lot of countries like the United States understand that he has his wealth hid in other places. And, he may not be bothered at this moment, but I can tell you that the Russian people are bothered. And if this continues for a while, and if this Russian, propaganda or disinformation that's spreading within the country about the war in Ukraine, if the West and, Ukrainian allies are able to really puncture that disinformation and people understand what's going on, Vladimir Putin and his designer clothes suddenly doesn't seem too relatable to the average Russian person. So this is just a facade. I think Putin is trying to show his people, as well as around the world, that he's not bothered, and that he, very much signifying all of Russia or representing all of Russia, isn't bothered.
It'll be interesting because there's obviously a split. There are those who are demonstrating against the war in Russia, and then there were others who were cheering and waving flags at that very well-attended rally in Moscow. Thank you so much, Julia, for being with us as always. We have other news to get to right now. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to click on the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.